29F, have been with my boyfriend, 31M, for almost 9 years. I've given him everything, but he still hasn't proposed, and I'm starting to wonder why. I've never posted here before, but I'm at a point where I really need some honest perspective. I've been with my boyfriend for almost 9 years. We've grown up together, been through a lot, and in many ways, he's been my sense of safety. But lately, I'm realizing I don't know if I'm truly happy. A little about me. I grew up in a really unstable home. Even though I was the youngest, I ended up being the one who took on all the adult responsibilities. I never really had role models, so I had to figure life out on my own. Somewhere along the way, I learned that the more I do for someone, the more they'll love me. That love is something you earn through service, effort, and sacrifice. And that's exactly how I've shown up in this relationship. From day one, I've done everything I can to make him feel loved. Thoughtful gestures, emotional support, anticipating his needs before he even has to ask. I pour myself into caring for him, sometimes to my own detriment. I've been patient, nurturing, and loyal, but I'm exhausted. We've talked about marriage over the years, and for a long time, I thought it just wasn't the right time. But we're almost a decade in. I've been ready for years, and he knows this. It's starting to break me that he still hasn't proposed. I can't help but wonder, is it me? Is it fear? Does he just not see me as his forever person? It hurts because I've built my life around this relationship. I've shown him loyalty, consistency, love, and care. I've done everything in my power to make this work, and yet I still feel like I'm waiting to be chosen. Then there's the intimacy. He's often selfish in bed. I'll take care of him, and when he leaves me hanging, he'll joke and say, "I owe me." But he never repays me, or think to finish me off. Over time, that's really messed with my self-worth. It's not just about sex, it's about what it represents. I give, and he takes. There's no follow-through, no effort to make sure I'm fulfilled too. Financially, it's another sore spot. He can't save money. He's a workaholic, though. No matter how much time passes, there's always an excuse, always some reason we're not moving forward. And to think I want a house and a ring. I'm tired of feeling like the only adult in this relationship, like I'm carrying the weight while he's just chilling. It's hard to plan a future, or even believe in one, when there's no sense of stability or shared responsibility or urgency. I know I've played a role in this. I've enabled it. I've made it too easy for him to coast, because I thought if I just loved harder, if I did more, he'd rise to meet me. But he hasn't. And now resentment is creeping in. He's not a bad guy. He's kind in his own way, and I do believe he loves me. But love without growth starts to feel like stagnation. And I'm sitting here wondering if I've confused comfort for commitment. I've thought about walking away more times than I want to admit, but it's hard. We've been us for so long. I don't really have family support because he can do no wrong to them. It feels lonely. The thought of starting over is terrifying, especially leaving with less than you came in with. I guess my question is, what would you do? After all this time, all this effort, all the ways I've shown up. What's holding him back? And if he hasn't done it by now, do I need to accept that he might never? Do I keep waiting and hoping for a version of him that doesn't exist yet? Or do I finally choose myself, even if that means walking away from the only love I've ever known and no place to go? Any honest advice is welcome. I'm just tired of wondering what more I have to give before I'm finally enough. My manipulative ex sent me a box full of apologies 5 years after we broke up. The problem is, she died a year ago. It's been 5 years. 5 years since I finally, painfully, and messily extracted myself from that relationship. It was one of those relationships that doesn't just end, it leaves a crater. She was my first real love, and she was a master of a quiet, insidious kind of cruelty, a manipulator of the highest order. Every argument was my fault. Every insecurity I had was a weapon she would sharpen and use against me. By the end, I was a hollowed-out, anxious wreck of a person. It took me years of therapy, of rebuilding my own self-worth from the ground up, to feel even remotely normal again. I hadn't seen or spoken to her in half a decade. I thought I was free. Then, last month, the box arrived. It was a small, unassuming package in my mailbox. No return address. Just my name and address, written in a familiar, elegant, sharp cursive that I recognized instantly. A cold, heavy feeling, a ghost of an old anxiety, settled in my stomach. Her handwriting. On a small cardboard tag tied to the box with a black ribbon were 7 words, also in her hand. For all the things I should have said, my first instinct was to throw it away, unopened, to just toss it in the dumpster and pretend it never came. But I couldn't. The curiosity, the morbid need for a final, long overdue sense of closure, was too strong. I took it inside. The box itself was beautiful. It was a small, ornate thing, carved from a dark, heavy wood, with intricate patterns of vines and leaves winding around its sides. It felt old, ancient even. I sat at my kitchen table, my heart a frantic drum against my ribs, and I lifted the lid. Inside, the box was empty. It was lined with a deep, dark, light-absorbing velvet. There was no letter, no trinket, no explanation. Just an empty, velvet-lined box. I felt a surge of frustrated, familiar anger. Of course. Even now, 5 years later, she was still playing games, sending a cryptic, beautiful, and ultimately empty gesture. It was so perfectly her. I put the box on a bookshelf in my living room, a strange, dark little monument to a past I was trying to forget, and I did my best to put it out of my mind. The next morning, I was getting ready for work. I walked past the bookshelf, and something caught my eye. There was a small, folded piece of white paper sitting in the center of the box's dark velvet lining. I froze. I knew, with an absolute certainty, that the box had been empty when I went to bed. My apartment door was locked. No one had been in. My hands were trembling as I reached for it. I unfolded the paper. On it, in that same sharp, elegant cursive, was a single sentence. "I'm sorry for making you feel small at that dinner party with your friends." I stared at the note, my mind reeling. The dinner party. It had been 7 years ago, a small gathering at my apartment. She had spent the entire night subtly, skillfully, undermining me in front of my oldest friends, making me the butt of a dozen gentle jokes that left me feeling like an idiot. I had almost forgotten about it. But the apology, it was so specific, so verbatim to the conversation we'd had in the car on the way home, where I had used those exact words. "You made me feel small." I spent the rest of the day in a daze, the note folded in my pocket, a strange hot coal against my leg. When I got home from work, I went straight to the bookshelf. There was another note. "I'm sorry for reading your journal." My blood ran cold. She had always sworn she hadn't. It had been a huge fight, a suspicion I could never prove. But here it was, a confession, a posthumous admission of guilt. I checked again an hour later. Another note. "I'm sorry for lying about where I was that night." This was the rhythm of my life for the next week. The box became an endless, automated apology machine. Every time I looked, a new note, a new folded piece of paper, a new shard of our toxic past, would be waiting for me. At first, it was cathartic, validating. Every note was a confirmation that I hadn't been crazy. The gaslighting, the manipulation, it had all been real. It was like all the old wounds I had were finally being lanced, the poison drained away. "I'm sorry I told your mother you were the one who broke her antique vase." "I'm sorry I flirted with your best friend at your birthday party." "I'm sorry I made you quit your painting class." But then the apologies started to get darker, more intrusive. "I'm sorry for watching you while you slept." I found that one on a Saturday morning. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature of the room. I remembered waking up sometimes, in the dead of night, with the feeling of being watched, only to see her lying beside me, her eyes closed. I had always dismissed it as a dream. "I'm sorry for putting that keylogger on your laptop." That one explained so much. The way she always seemed to know what I was thinking, who I was talking to. The way she would bring up things from private emails, pretending it was just a lucky guess. "I'm sorry I followed you to work that day. You said you were sick." The box wasn't just apologizing for the things I knew about. It was revealing a secret, hidden history of stalking and violation, a level of obsession and control that I had never even suspected. The catharsis was curdling into a deep, creeping horror. It was an invasion, a reopening of a past that was far more monstrous than I had ever realized. I had to get rid of it. I took the box, my hands shaking with a mixture of fear and rage, and I threw it in the dumpster behind my apartment building. I watched it disappear under a pile of trash bags. I felt a sense of finality, of relief. The next morning, it was back on my bookshelf. It was sitting in the exact same spot, polished and pristine. And inside, a new note was waiting. "I'm sorry you tried to throw me away." Panic, a raw, frantic animal panic, began to set in. I took the box out to my small concrete patio, and I took a hammer to it. I swung with all my might. The hammerhead connected with the dark wood with a loud crack and bounced off, leaving not so much as a scratch. The wood was impossibly, unnaturally hard. The hammer, however, had a new dent in its head. The box was a part of my life now, an unmovable, unbreakable, and unending source of my past's poison. And then, the apologies started to change. They started to become predictive. One morning, a note appeared that was different. It was about the future. "I'm sorry for what the man on the bus is about to say to you." I stared at the note, a sense of profound, dizzying wrongness washing over me. An hour later, on my commute to work, the bus lurched, and a large, angry-looking man stumbled and spilled his coffee. He turned and glared at me, even though I was a full 3 feet away. "Watch where you're going, you idiot!" he snarled, his voice full of a bizarre, unearned venom. The box wasn't just dredging up the past anymore. It was predicting, or maybe even causing, new negativity in my life, and then apologizing for it. The notes became a mix of past and present. "I'm sorry I dented your father's car and let you take the blame." "I'm sorry for the flat tire you're going to get this afternoon." "I'm sorry I told all our friends your novel was just a stupid hobby." "I'm sorry your boss is going to lose that important file." It was a constant, unending stream of misery, both remembered and newly delivered. I was living in a psychic minefield, with the box as my own personal, malevolent fortune teller. I had to talk to her. I had to stop this. I dug through my old contacts, my fingers feeling like clumsy sausages, and I found her number. I hadn't deleted it, I just never looked at it. I called. It went straight to a disconnected tone. I tried her social media. Her profiles were all gone, deactivated. I was getting desperate. I called one of our old mutual friends, someone I hadn't spoken to in years. "Hey," I said, my voice shaking. "This is going to sound really, really weird, but I need to get in touch with her. It's an emergency. Do you have a new number for her?" There was a long, heavy silence on the other end of the line. Are you okay?" My old friend finally asked, his voice full of a strange, cautious concern. "Yeah, I'm fine. I really need to talk to her." Another pause. "Dude," he said, his voice soft. "She's dead." She died a year ago. The phone slipped from my hand and clattered to the floor. I just stood there, the blood roaring in my ears. Dead. She was dead. "A car accident," my friend's tinny voice continued from the floor. "It was really awful. I thought you knew. Her parents sent out an announcement. I hung up. She was dead. For a year. But the box had arrived a month ago. And the notes, they were still coming." I stumbled to the bookshelf. The box was there, a dark, silent void. And inside, a new, folded note. I picked it up with a hand that was so numb, I could barely feel the paper. "I'm sorry I died." My mind shattered. The last, fragile barrier between the rational world and this impossible, waking nightmare dissolved completely. This wasn't a sick prank. This wasn't a final, manipulative game. This was something else. Something from beyond the grave. I'm writing this now because I don't know what else to do. I am trapped. The notes haven't stopped, but they're different now. They're no longer just apologies for the life we shared. They're dispatches, postcards from whatever hell she's in, and they are more terrifying than any of her earthly cruelties. This morning, there were 3. I'm sorry I was thinking of you when I died. I was holding this box, that one made me physically ill. I was the last thought in her head. And somehow, in that final moment, she had tethered this thing to me. I'm sorry the sky is red here. I'm sorry the people here don't have hearts. They just have empty spaces. The last note, the one that is sitting on my desk right now, the one that has finally pushed me to write this, to scream into the void and pray someone has an answer, arrived an hour ago. I'm sorry. I have to go now. The one with the smiling face is coming for me again. I don't know what to do. I think I am tied to a ghost, and her only connection to the living world is me. The box is on my bookshelf, and I know, with a certainty that is slowly crushing the life out of me, that a new note is already waiting. And I am so afraid to read it.